Ant-Man vs. the Atom. Marvel's size-shifting hero versus DC's shrinking super. It's a battle of tiny epic proportions here on Versus. Who will win? Give us your pick in those comments below with either #Ant-Man or #Atom. Hey everybody, welcome back to Versus, a series that we do here on Top 10 Nerd, where we take a look at your favorite comic book and other fiction characters and toss them into the ring with one another. Today it's Ant-Man vs. the Atom, a character now being popularized by the MCU and another who's gone a pretty good stint in the Arrowverse. Despite both of these facts, we'll be looking at the characters solely from the comics today. Rather than get messy with Hank Pym's Ant-Man, the dude has donned many an alias and we kinda wanna keep it simple for this Versus, we've chosen to look at Scott Lang as Ant-Man instead. So with all of that in mind, let's jump in. First off, let's take a look at the origins of these two characters, in terms of both fictional and publication history. Starting off with Ant-Man. Scott Lang first debuted in the Avengers in issue 181 in 1979, but didn't debut as the second Ant-Man until shortly afterwards, in Marvel Premiere issue 47 of that same year. After Hank Pym, the first Ant-Man, had taken on the Yellow Jacket alias, David Michelin jumped on the opportunity to craft a new shrinking hero, saying, I quote, "I wanted something completely different, in both origin and motivation, from Pym. So I came up with an idea of a reformed criminal, not an unjustly accused innocent, which would have been the expected angle. And I figured that as a burglar he probably enjoyed the adrenaline rush of his previous job, so the excitement of heroic adventure could fill that need in him, but legally." While the character's initial appearance didn't score him a solo series, he eventually grew on people. Scott was a single dad, a reformed criminal, was super relatable, and had an endearing boyish charm, and a wit that kept fans curious. He's also known for his humor, something that's translated quite well into the character's MCU adaptation. Initially an electrical engineer, Scott got into crime when his life failed to give him any excitement. Or at least that was the story originally. It was later retconned that Scott's criminal lifestyle was one of necessity, because he was unable to support his family. As a burglar, he was eventually caught, and did a stint in prison for 4 years before getting out on good behavior. But his time in prison wasn't a total waste. He improved his abilities with electronics, which helped score him a job at Stark International Design Department when he was out. His daughter Cassie would then fall privy to a serious heart condition, and the one surgeon who could help her case was abducted and taken to Cross Technological Enterprises. In order to save the surgeon, Scott returned to his thieving ways, as a last resort that is, and stole the Ant-Man suit from Hank Pym's home in New Jersey. Pym saw him steal it and decided to follow him to see what he intended to do with the suit, only to witness Lang save the surgeon and defeat Darren Cross in the process, who, side note, would take up the Yellow Jacket alias in 2016 after he returned from the dead. Scott wanted to return the suit to Pym, who refused, and let him keep it. From then on out, he began to aid the members of the Avengers, starting off with Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, the former having him figure out the truth behind Justin Hammer, and the latter crafting a nuclear power regulator to help Bruce Banner control his heartbeat and prevent transformations into the Hulk. Moving on to Atom. Ray Palmer first appeared in Showcase issue 34 back in 1961, created by Julius Schwartz, Gardner Fox, and Gil Kane. Atom was one of the first superheroes of the Silver Age, following suit with the new sci-fi inspired heroes that DC was debuting. He was created as an updated version of Al Pratt's of sorts, the Golden Age Atom, a character who was a 5'1" college student studying physics, and was typically depicted as a tough guy. That Atom had atomic strength and agility, was a superb athlete and boxer, and had an immunity to radiation. Schwartz wanted to avoid updating that hero though, choosing to go with something brand new instead, although that Atom has made many an appearance with our recent Atom too. Schwartz had read about dwarf stars, and thought that a fragment of one could power the Atom's miniaturization. Palmer's character differed in more than just his powers. He wasn't a student either. Instead, he was a physicist, a full-blown physicist, and a professor specializing in matter compression with the goal of countering overpopulation and the problems that came along with it. After encountering a white dwarf star that landed on Earth, Ray makes a lens out of it that allows him to shrink any object, although the compression would destabilize objects' molecular structure and cause them to explode. Shortly after crafting the lens, he then gets trapped in a cave during a spelunking expedition with his class and his girlfriend, and ends up using the lens to shrink himself down to climb through the rocks, hoping to free everyone by causing himself to explode. But instead of combusting, he returns to normal size, and manages to save everyone in the process. Later tests on other objects with the lens still cause them to explode, but for whatever reason, his body can shrink and grow back without a problem. So Palmer decides to use this newfound ability to become a superhero, as one does, and crafts a belt tool that helps him control his miniaturization, allowing him to shrink down to a subatomic level, along with a costume that he designs that will shrink with him. A retcon in 2010 would change this so that instead, in order to survive shrinking, he would need to wear a costume made out of a compression matrix in order to stabilize the effects in his body. Alright, let's move on to abilities, starting off with Ray. Atom has the ability to shrink and grow his body, and also can do the same to other objects, all due to that white dwarf star he had crafted into that belt buckle of his costume. At times, this includes on a subatomic level. While in his shrunken form, he can maintain the strength he has in his normal state. In addition to this, he has a genius level intellect, and also a PhD in physics. He's one of the only DC characters to have full 100% control control of his body on a molecular level, which is a pretty big deal. He's been known to reduce his mass in order to glide through the air, and to increase his mass to the point of being able to punch through concrete. He also has shown the ability to shrink down others, although this tends to be limited. It's also worth noting that after the 1994 Zero Hour, he had the ability to grow in size, but that was later reverted. Perhaps though the real question of this match is, just how small can he get? In Blackest Night issue 4, he shrinks down small enough to travel on photon signals through fiber optic cable. In Countdown to Final Crisis issue 18, Palmer discovered that he could shrink down beyond the subatomic scale, below the quantum layer beneath reality, in order to traverse the multiverse. Alright, moving on to Scott Lang. Scott's got a few tricks up his sleeve that Palmer doesn't have. He has telepathic insect communication via his helmet. He uses PIM particle discs that can make himself and other objects shrink or grow in size. He's a master thief. And of course, he can shrink down to a subatomic level, and can enter subatomic universes. A very specific Marvel thing there. But on the downside, he's also a bit more dependent on his costume than Ray is. His helmet, which has a retractable plexiglass face shield, has a limited air supply. All that being said, Lang uses a gas form of PIM particles that he keeps in a compartment on his belt in order to shrink himself in size. While he would later go on to shrink himself at will, he's still reliant on the particles in order to do so, unlike the original Ant-Man, Hank Pym. Alright, moving on to the fight. As silly as this sounds, this fight is kind of entirely a shrinking contest. Ultimately, it depends on three factors. The first being how small each of these men can get in order to cause some real damage to one another, since hand-to-hand combat isn't really neither of their fortes. In the past, Adam has shrunk down to fit into Superman's bloodstream, where he manually rearranged the Man of Steel's molecules to create kryptonite. Also, during Blackest Night, when Al Pratt, the original Adam, makes an appearance, Ray shrinks down and enters his body, then enlarges himself, ripping Pratt's body apart. Alright, so that second factor? Who could outsmart who? Arguably, they both have very different kinds of smarts. Scott, while he's proven to have some scientific competency and electronic mastery by upgrading his own uniform and helping Tony Stark a lot, is more of a street smart kind of guy, thanks to that criminal background. Palmer, on the other hand, is a book smart kind of guy. Dude is a physicist and a university professor. He's also the one who invented his technology, whereas Scott stole his. So arguably, Palmer is a bit more of an expert when it comes to the ins and outs of getting really small. That being said, Scott definitely has a few more tricks up his sleeve, and might manage to outwit Palmer in a battle, especially if they're fighting in an environment that isn't just a barren landscape. And lastly, the third factor is endurance. Specifically, their technology's endurance. Scott is reliant on his PIM particles, whereas Ray has the power of a white dwarf star. Which one do you think will run out faster if these two ended up engaging in a relentless battle? And the winner? The Atom. Perhaps if we were looking at Hank Pym rather than Scott Lang, there would be much more of an argument for Ant-Man's victory. Ray's knowledge of physics and the fact that his physiology is inherently adaptable to shrinking goes a long way. If we were talking about him and Hank here, it's probable that with Hank's knowledge and his ability to manipulate his own subatomic extra-dimensional particles, the original Ant-Man would surely have an upper hand. Aside from that, Ray's powers come from a star, which, yes, will eventually die out, but likely not within his lifespan. Prolonged use of PIM particles have had negative effects on the user's state, both physical and mental. While it's been shown in the comics that too much use can cause the user to organically generate PIM particles, Scott was never able to do so, although his daughter Cassie was. All that being said, Adam has proven his chops on the battlefield beyond getting real small. Being able to manipulate his mass in order to appear to fly or throw wicked punches is definitely an advantage when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. Alright, there we have it, friends. Do you guys agree with our pick? Or do you think that we're being a bit unfair to poor Scott Lang? Share all of your thoughts and feelings with us in that comment section down below. If you guys are feeling more verses, be sure to have a look at the playlist we currently have flashing up on your screen. There's plenty of ones featuring all-time comic faves, and even some more obscure ones too. And also my personal favorite, Harry Potter vs. Elsa from Frozen, which was straight up ridiculous, so you should probably go watch that right now. Now if you dug this video, please show us some love and hit those like and subscribe buttons. And thanks for watching, everybody. I hope to see you all in the next video.